Just, Your Worship, just want to report, we've been having difficulties with the live stream this evening, so much of this meeting hasn't been live streamed. It didn't come live until just before we went into recess. Don't know the technical reasons why it wasn't working, but much of the meeting has been missed.
So now
It is working now.
Okay. Well, technology is only as good as the installations, right?
Or the operator.
Or the satellite. Okay, so we're going to reconvene item 7, the addition, the set fines revision that Deputy Mayor has provided. That's on your desk.
Just a word of explanation. What is in red is an addition to help clarify. I discovered that the motion had not yet been sent out, and I thought, well, if that's the case, we can improve it. So this, in the paragraph that cites section 91.1, subsection 1 of the Provincial Efficiencies Act, all I'm doing there is quoting from that section and underneath confirming something that I suspected but I believe to be the case, and that is that any increase in fines may also require a change in regulations. There is a schedule to the POA that incorporates fine information. And then finally confirms that the motion is sent to the Minister of Transportation. I think that's appropriate, and it's an oversight of mine in the original drafting. So there's no fundamental change here. It's simply a clarification and an elaboration of what was originally proposed.
So
The Mayor should read the motion out.
Okay, so I want to put the motion on the I need to put motion on the floor that the resolution 11-9-2019 dated May 14th, 2019 be rescinded, which was the original. Okay, so you would move that, Mr. Nix, and seconded by Martin. All in favor? Carries. And whereas set fines for speeding offenses under the Highway Traffic Act Section 128 have not increased in over 20 years or more, whereas the town of Mono and other municipalities in Ontario are facing serious road safety issues arising from aggressive speeding and careless driving on local, county, and regional roads as well as provincial highways. And whereas set fines for speeding deserve a thorough review both in terms of appropriateness, given no increase in 20 years or more, and the need to establish appropriate deterrence. And whereas the Chief Justice of the Ontario Court of Justice determines fines under the Provincial Offences Act, Section 91.1, bracket 1, the Chief Justice of Ontario Court of Justice may specify an amount as the set fine for the purpose of proceedings under the Part 1 or 2 of any offence 2017 C34, Schedule 35, S17. And whereas an increase in fines may also require a change in regulations, be it resolved, the town of Mona requests the Chief Justice of the Ontario Court of Justice and the Minister of Transportation review set fines under the Highway Traffic Act, especially those involving speeding offences, Section 128, and careless driving, Section 130, with a view to an increase that both takes into consideration the length of time since the last increase, as well as establishing appropriate deterrence. And that this motion be sent to the Chief Justice, the Minister of Transportation, Dufferin County Municipalities, MPP Sylvia Jones, the Detachment Commander of the Dufferin OPP, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So that's moved by Creelman and seconded by Magtalo. And any further discussion? All in favor? That carries. And item 8 is the request from CVC regarding a further date be added for the Midsummer Night's Dream so that they can have a rehearsal. This was not requested. In that ask was a one evening exemption for a dress rehearsal on the evening of August 21st. So That means that it would be inclusive of August 21st through to 25th if we were to grant the, yes.
When this matter first came to council, I declared an interest in as much as my daughter was then under contract with Theatre Orangeville. She has completed her work with Theatre Orangeville, is no longer under contract, therefore I do not believe I have a conflict.
So, what is the wish of council? Are you prepared to provide this extra day? Seeing nods.
Yes.
Read my mind. Yep. And the council approves the request to amend the exemption of the noise bylaw that it be granted to Credit Valley Conservation on March 26, 2019, namely that the following event be added to the exemption. August 21st, 2019, Theatre Orangeville dress rehearsal, and that council deems this a minor amendment and in keeping with the interest and the scope of the original exemption. So I have a mover, moved by Martin, and seconded by Nix. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carries. Okey-dokey. So now we're on to Schedule A. Ralph, did you have anything on Schedule A? Okay. Fred, do you have anything?
I'll just,
No.
not really, I did read the analysis of recent municipal case law and found that quite interesting. In particular, there was one that had to do with conflict of interest. And I think it seemed to confirm that Sharon and I were right to step away from the table when the Moore North asked for $25,000 because it didn't meet the test of a I forget the word, John, the common
Interest.
Yeah,
Interesting comment.
yeah.
Okay. Did you have any, John?
I sure do. Ministry of Transportation response to Mayor's letter. How sad is it that the minister has to repeat twice the slogan, Ontario's government for the people? Twice he repeats this in the course of this letter. The other thing that I found stunning is that he completely misses the point we raised with regard to the disappearing lane on Highway 9 in proximity to the intersection with First Line. He infers that that was all a redesign that was at the behest of the developer and constructed by the developer. Well, anyone who wants to drive that section of road will tell you that that disappearing lane occurs nowhere near the intersection, nowhere near it. This is just shocking. That's my comment.
Okay. And that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. All right. Sharon?
My turn. I had a few things to say about that letter as well. I thought that the letter sent from us, from Laura, was explained a number of areas that we would like some help with. So I think that this regional director, Jennifer Graham, perhaps she should be given a drive around, and maybe we should contact her and have her actually see what's happening. I don't want to say things like she probably lives in Toronto and doesn't have any idea. Pardon? London? Okay, that's same thing. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious about that, if this isn't a way to go, because we've been talking about this for a long time, and I'd really like to see someone from the ministry take a real look at what's happening, particularly Highway 10. I can wait a minute or two for Highway 9.
Mr. Dunmore, do we have to have two separate offices look after us because of the jurisdiction that we're, in terms of being Highway 9 and then Highway 10?
Yes, you have central and, drawing a blank, southern region, I think it is.
Yeah.
But you have two,
Yeah.
two districts that are, that take over, for that. So I don't mind, I have not been, as noted in the letter, I have not received, a reach out yet from
Well,
the lady, but,
we know that that's not gonna happen. I think we're gonna have to make the calls, so, if you don't mind, making the call or sending an email and, putting some sort of a timeline on it. So I think it'd be interesting if she's responsible for Highway 10 corridor, especially while they're doing their construction.
almost done.
Yeah.
I think we lost that chance 2 years ago, but I don't think it stops us from trying again. She's a regional director though, so
Yeah.
it's in our west region, so to me that eliminates central.
Yeah.
So I don't mind drawing a picture of Deputy Mayor Creelman's concern, because maybe they're not seeing
Exactly.
the disappearing lane for
Yeah.
a couple hundred meters and then reopening again.
And the
I
other-
don't mind drawing a picture with respect to that.
And the first paragraph on the second page, I thought that the whole issue was being brought, obviously the minister does not know what's going on in his department, because we have been making overtures to the London office regarding signalization at the second line. We were working on that.
To Central. That'd be the Keelan Fin, or St. Catharines actually, is where Central would be out of. So, it sort of seems like the discussions have been with the West region, which is Highway 10, which is a very simple answer because they're so deep into construction. And like I say, our fight 3 to 4 years ago came back very negative. And it makes me wonder if Central Regional Director has been contacted, and I don't think that there'd be a problem with with having a conversation with respect to that, and or reaching out to that director to see,
Yeah.
start it by an email chain to both.
And an on-site visit to any of these letters that were addressed in, locations that were addressed in the letters, so. So, you can just keep us apprised of any success.
I'll let you know for sure.
I have a question regarding Highway 10, and that is, of course, they say in the future, and so forth. They've just reconstructed a bridge north of Camilla. Can that even qualify as a 4-lane corridor over that bridge, or will they have to reconstruct that bridge?
All they did was take the deck off and re-waterproofed, and updated the guide rail extruders to today's standard.
We argued with them.
No,
about
it's a
that.
2-lane bridge to better.
That's what I thought, and I think everyone should be aware of how well they do their planning, that in the future, they're going to have to spend even more money to build that bridge properly, and that bridge took an enormous amount of time to reconstruct.
In reviewing my notes from the previous, when Mayor Ryan and CAO Mark Early and I attended the minister's delegation with Minister Del Duca, there's still an unexplained 20,000 vehicles that disappear north of 20 Side Road. And 20 Side Road was actually met the warrants for the left turn lane 6 to 7 years ago, which we asked the question if their planning was that far behind. And why wouldn't 25 or 30 have? And the answers were that simple from them, that they didn't meet the current warrants, so.
Okay.
And warrants, that really bothers me too, in brackets, deaths. So it is the thing, we hear it all the time, somebody has to die
Yep.
before there's any action. That's a terrible way to go through life.
And in our delegation,
Yes.
I specifically looked across the table to the minister
Yes.
and said, what point is the ministry going to turn this around? Because we are now in the 21st century, and to only make safety improvements when people die. And I said, it's a problem for me because the people that are going to die are my residents.
Exactly.
And they,
I'd also, are we done with this one?
yeah.
I'd also, I was quite interested in number 6, in R.E. Barnett, the architect's response to Bill 108. I thought that was quite a wonderful letter, and he certainly addressed a number of things that have been bothering me about the whole situation with Bill 108. I know that it's already passed and everything else, but there's always a chance to complain about the fact that they're doing it wrong. And so I just hope that everybody had a read with that one. And the other one was number 12. I found that interesting as well, to see that in the Greenbelt that that 53% of Ontario's fruit acreage is in the Greenbelt. The Greenbelt must be a lot bigger than I thought. That's huge. Anyway, that was interesting. And I also went through all the case law stuff, which was number 14, and found that fascinating as well. And I'm glad we weren't there.
Okay, so we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. So moved by Magdalo and seconded by Nix. All in favor? Carries. Okay, so now we're on to reports of council and staff. So we'll start with Mr. Luca.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. As council is aware, we're operating with a crippled telephone system. We put monies in the budget back in 2016 to look at replacing it. We are looking at it right now at the moment. Jake, we have Cheyenne, Colin, and myself. We've had a couple presentations on a different kind of system. We're going to have a third one on this Friday. It's a concept of using basically the internet instead of going through regular telephone lines. So we're exploring that avenue right now, and hopefully we'll have some kind of decision to come forward with council to approve. But that's in the works at the moment. I'm done, thank you.
Just a reminder that I sent everyone an email giving you the heads up that the Bruce Trail is running their end-to-end this weekend. It's starting, they'll be bringing 2 busloads of people in at 6:30 a.m. to Mono Community Center on Saturday, and then they'll be leaving up for Lavender right at 6:30 a.m. and making their way down by a foot to Third Line and Mono Center Road, and then they'll be just getting transported back to Mono Community Center as they come in, but they'll just be leaving. But I just wanted to let council know, because there is an extra portalette that's being installed out at Mono Center just for the weekend. And if anyone asks, why we had a couple of busloads of people, that's why. So it's with the Bruce Trail. We held our canoeing workshop, Learn to Paddle, on Sunday. It was attended by 18 people. It was Mother Nature certainly cooperated with us. It was great. Ross Martin and Dave Mole, Councillor Fred Nix, and myself were the instructors. And yeah, I think everyone had a good time. So that was good. Also wanting to let you know that over the past 2 weeks, I have met with our security/locks contractor, and I have investigated alternative possibilities for securing the buildings. And I'll be putting a report together for council in that regard once I discuss it with our acting CAO. And also participated in the Learn to Paddle or Learn to Row day with Councillor Mangtolo and Councillor Nix and Fred Simpson and Christine Tovey and David Trotman and myself. So yeah, I think we set a darn fine record for the other municipalities to beat, even if someone did catch a crab, but that's okay. And I'm working away on the Island Lake and Brookfield Park report, and you will have it for your next meeting. Mr. Dunmore?
So as council's aware, Fifth Line is still closed north of, south of 25 Side Road. So I got the initial reports in with respect to the works. I'm providing council with a couple options on that, just so everybody has a good idea with respect to the cost. But we've been able to get the county to work with us with respect to garbage drop-off locations for these residents, and I'm hoping that the Canada Post has understood that this is going to be a longer-term closure and help with the mail process for these residents. So, but I will have that for council next meeting. Their mailbox is on 25 Side Road, and they can't get there now, right? And so was their garbage delivery. They actually drove, I didn't realize this, of course you don't realize a lot of things until it happens, right? Their garbage actually went to 5th and 25, so they had to drive, I forget, the one lady calculated 94 kilometers extra a week just to drop her garbage off, because she had to go down to Mono Center 8, out to the 3rd or the 4th, or airport, actually 4th. So we worked through that, but I will have that for council next meeting. Purple Hill concrete replacements, we've finished the remainder of the slabs that we deemed to be in bad shape last year, so that's done. We'll start with crack sealing, and we're still dealing with our contractor there that we used last year. He's come up with a proposal for it to stay in place this year, and following that we will commence with our final lift of asphalt on the sections that we replaced last year. Maintenance gravel is about 50% completed. Calcium is about 30 to 40% completed. We're plugging away whenever there isn't rain, that's for sure. I spoke about the CAO meeting that we are starting with respect to the motion. The Bike and Trail Task Force, I don't want to take away from Ralph's, but we had Kim and the public members and Fred and Ralph, we had a very good start-off meeting. Members were tasked to go out and look at various, I'll call them commuter routes for lack of better words, but commuter routes for biking, and we're all meeting again on the 13th to have some comments and discussions with respect to how we foresee the, I get the right name wrong, the grant, the grant name. I can't remember the name of the grant, but how we foresee that $44,000 being expended, which council approved a few meetings ago. Brookfield, we're dealing with all our site deficiencies with Brookfield. The list is getting small, save and except the wastewater treatment plant, so that we're pretty happy for the residents on that one. We're hoping we're getting it down to a few issues. Drinking water quality management, we had internal audits. They were last week, and council can expect a report from the auditor in the coming sessions. And, so residents may be asking you about letters that they're receiving. Mr. Sheffield and I think the mayor has also received a letter from the MTO. MTO is starting to a detailed Class A environmental assessment for Highway 89 from Primrose to Rosemont. So they're seeking municipal, not only municipal, but they're also seeking residential comments with respect to the Class Environmental Act. So those, if your constituents are getting letters in the area, they stretch down as south of 30 Side Road. So their mail-out area is very large. So they're looking for any concerns that you may have or suggestions in line with probably the suggestions we have on Highway 10, whether we get responses that we want or not. But I think it's where the town will be making sure that we stay involved. And I provided similar comments, I think, a couple years ago when the initial design started. So this is looking for residential input now. And so if you do get a letter and you have some concerns, whether it be left turn, getting onto highways, speed, I think those are all appropriate. And for those of you that didn't receive the letter, because you're too far south, I'd be happy to add them to my list if council wants to send something to me. I could put it into my list for sure.
Mr. Trott? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
It's a requirement. Dave could speak to class environmental assessments, but I think it's due to size of the project that they're required to do a class environmental assessment. So what would prompt the rehabilitation or the study? So it's it's very similar to Highway 10, although there's nothing being sought with respect to left turning lanes or anything at this time. It's pretty well drainage improvements, culvert replacements that they didn't do 3 years ago, and a new surface resurfacing. So.
Mr. Trotman?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. So I have a number of items on the go. Much of it's centered around Bill 108 now. Future royal assent. So we're still awaiting the regulations. That's a very key part to a lot of those acts and schedules that are changing. So that's actually a provincial planners seminar on Friday to try and deal with some of this. There's a webinar on June 26th, so I'm trying to plug into that. That's being conducted by Weir Folds. So it's really going to provide a bit of a very good legal overview, particularly on the schedule regarding LPAT. There was actually an attendance provision, but it booked out within about 5 minutes. So they added a webinar for those who couldn't get in within the 5-minute time frame. So that should work out well. I won't see, but I'll be able to hear in. We have another planners meeting with Dufferin County on June 17th as well. It's going to be more than a full day, I know, because we're also weighing into a lot of those schedules. We may touch on the ag mapping as well. There has been a bulletin or letter sent out from a MAFRA indicating that they're wanting to sort of move forward with their mapping with upper and lower tiers. So that'll be on the agenda. We're going to try and get some understanding of what are the anticipated changes for the Planning Act as well as the PPS. Those apparently are still on their way down the pipe. And of course, a weigh in on the growth plan, the new growth plan, 2019. So there is a really full agenda that day. Other than that, there's a number of projects still ongoing, a couple on Highway 9, excuse me. We have I'm just going to call it Planning Advisory Committee on June the 25th. And the agenda hasn't been set yet, but it will certainly have probably the property on Highway 89 at Third Line. This is the Full Throttle property that is seeking a zoning amendment for a truck review, truck repair shop. Given new council, new committee, we feel that's the right approach to come back. And then I think also, if time permits, we'll be re-examining the community standards bylaw. So we had a full session last, June, was it June the 5th, I think, where we started to get into community standards bylaw at the committee level, and so that there can be some fulsome dialogue and review back to council on comments on that draft bylaw. And that's about it, other than the ongoing day-to-day stuff, of course, so.
Mr. Simpson?
Don't want anyone to forget that, of course, this Friday is our Plaid for Dad barbecue. Staff and council, of course, coming out for that. So far, we've raised just under $1,100 of our $750 goal. So we're in about the same neighborhood of last year, though a little bit more to go. I believe we were about $1,200 last year. And of course, Mr. Early has reported he'll be showing for that, putting in a showing for that. As he seems to be up on 2 feet and moving about. Noon till 2. And the province has just recently announced the Community Safety Well-Being Planning Training Seminar Part 1, which is on July 11th. It's a whole day seminar in Richmond Hill, though they say they're going to host several other versions of it, and that ultimately they plan on having at least 4 parts to this training seminar. They haven't provided any other details as to the content of this seminar yet.
My memory's fading. Are we doing that with the county?
That's still ultimately the question. The most recent seminar that the provincial staff gave said that lower tiers can work in cooperation with the upper tiers. Completely different from what they said a month earlier when Mark and I attended. There's still question, though, whether each municipality is going to be submitting it. We can work in cooperation, but the minister had alluded that the upper tiers might be able to submit those on behalf of the lower tiers, but the staff have yet to confirm those orders or directions. So it's unclear. I don't know. It's a short answer. Who's going to be submitting these plans? And that's everything I have.
Okay. Ralph?
So just to repeat Kim's, we had a great race and we set a new standard, a Canadian standard. Some people said it was a global standard for the race for this time. I think it was 2 hours and 2 minutes. Sorry, Freudian slip. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Anyway, a very specific course. Anyway, I think everybody had a good time. Next year, I suspect that the word will be out in Orangeville and Caledon will be anxious to come up against us, and I trust that Heaton in 3-seat, I knew you were there because you tapped me occasionally. It will be training hard for the next year. We had a Board of Health meeting on the 6th of June, and 3 items that were of interest. They had a study of cannabis and alcohol, which it's published there, and it appears that there's almost a synergistic effect of when you combine the two. In other words, you only need a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of cannabis to get quite high. And it bothers me that this is a proposal that one of the edibles will be a combination of cannabis and alcohol. Can't believe it. Anyway, it's not recognized by most people in the study that they did, the survey, that the two have an additive effect. And it's evident that a fair number of people will combine the two already, 20 or 30%. Second was immunization. You know, the immunization is one of the great things that's happened in our healthcare, and there's been a resistance to it on a number of fronts, usually through, I guess you could call it, false news or false evidence. And so a number of people will not have immunization because they think that some way it's harmful, or et cetera. The legality of this is that if your kid is not immunized, then they can be forbidden to attend school. And there were 601 children in elementary school that did not comply. Their immunization records indicated that they were not completely immunized, and they were forbidden to attend school in all of Dufferin, Wellington, and Guelph. And pretty quickly, that number came down to quite a low amount, I think within about a week. And in high school, there was 201, so this is a big problem. It's really quite amazing. We had a closed session to discuss the issue of amalgamation, and the proposal, what I'm telling you now, is not a part of the closed session, so this is information that's well known, or fairly well known. The proposal is that we would join, Dufferin, Wellington, Guelph would join with the counties to the south, including Halton and Peel and Mississauga, and would make a health unit of about 3 million people. It's the fastest growing area in Ontario. It'll be about 4 million within, I think it's 10 years. And so the closed session was examining this issue and whether what was the best for our particular health unit. And that'll be an ongoing discussion, I think, at county level with the wardens and the CAOs. The Pollinator Garden's been active. We had our main planting session in the spring planting, and this was supported by Burnside, and about 10 Burnside staff came out and helped plant. And we had a great planting session, and we've got, we're not full yet, but we're pretty close to full in terms of plants. I suspect when they grow their maximum, we will be. It looks like the farm tour is probably going to come off. That would be that we'd be on the farm tour, and they continue to ask questions about things like parking and insurance, and so I think that they're quite interested in taking part, which I think will be really great for us. You know, the farm tour, not everybody comes everywhere, but about 1,500 people sign up for the farm tour, so it's a massive opportunity to showcase our pollinator garden. Mike's mentioned the trail network. We have an incredibly enthusiastic group of people who are on the ground now, going through, walking different parts of the trail system to come up with recommendations for upgrades or new connections, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll meet on Thursday and discuss this. And we recognize a very tight schedule to allow us to have recommendations before council, which will allow us to spend the money that we have, which has to be spent by March the 20th, I think, of next year. So we expect by the end of, probably at the July council meeting, to have a recommendation. And that's it. Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, on May 29th, Mike and I attended the Joint Municipal Water Supply Model Agreement Group, and Mono's position on that, just the background here, is we did approve the consultant's report a year or so ago, so we're fairly comfortable with anything that's being planned. It's a couple of other municipalities that have to get on board. The one new thing that they dropped on the table, or somebody did, is so this model between this agreement between Mono, Amaranth, Orangeville, and East Gary is going to look at a number of triggers, number of size of lots or size of development areas, and water usage. I think those are the two main triggers. And if we go above that, we're going to run the risk model again. It was brought to our attention, though, the Clean Water Act only is about municipal wells. We have other water takers in this watershed that have permits to take water, and we should probably add those numbers to the triggers that tip the scales when we do that model. I'd never thought of that before. On May 30th, we had the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting that Kim mentioned. There was a couple of new things that she put on the table, which I guess she'll report on in due course, about rummage sales, and I think we're, not rummage sales, garage sales. Was it? Yeah, and also some plans for Earth Day possible next year, which sounds kind of exciting. On June 4th, we have the Community Safety Task Force meeting, which John will report on. On June 6th, we had the Trail Task Force meeting, which I think is pretty exciting. Ralph he failed to tell you that he was elected chair of that task force at the first steps in the meeting.
And you're the secretary.
And I'm the secretary. Ralph seemed to be the secretary of the Community Safety Task Force too, so.
And I have to tell you, Fred got the minutes out within 2 hours of the meeting. It was impressive.
On June 8th, we had the canoe lessons that Kim reported. I got a lovely little Quinn anyway, I had one student, or a little child I took out, which was fun. And in the afternoon, we had the rowing. Kim sat in front of me. She didn't fall out of the boat, although it came close. It came close at one point. I have to tell you, when we finished that rowing and we got up to the dock, and part of it, Ralph, was that's the floating dock, but I thought I'd been drinking because I was staggering when I got out, but then I turned around and there was Kim. I had to hold Kim up. We held each other up as we got our shoes.
You want to explain what Kim's crab was like?
Well, okay, I was rowing on the right-hand side, but your feet go out and you pull your oar back, right? If you do it too hard, you can flip the thing that the oar goes through right underneath and end up sort of upside down, which is what Kim. Did I explain that right?
Yeah, you gave her good credit. You pulled too hard.
Yeah.
Actually, you get the blade flipped a little bit and it just goes underwater. And if it hits you hard enough in the belly, it's right out of the boat.
Yeah. I was going to let her go. The thing is, your feet are strapped into the bottom, so I wasn't worried about her flipping out of the boat. On June 12th, we have a Headwaters Streams Committee meeting, and the good news there, well, we're continuing with our plans of 3 pilot projects to try to see if we can control Phragmites. I'm looking after one particular property, and Mike is going to help me because this one's a bit dangerous. I have to get out in the pond in very mucky water. He's going to attach a rope to my neck. The other good news, which I will find out more about on the 12th, is we've just got a donation of $2,000. So, Les, I'll be hopefully bringing you a check on Friday or something. On the 13th, we have the Trail Task Force meeting. And then on the 28th, I'll have my last board meeting with the NVCA. I'll take Ralph. I'm hoping he's going to come. The only trouble I have with taking him to NVCA board meetings before he's a board member is he sits beside me and he tends to try to vote on every motion. But we do have, and I can say this publicly, we have a delicate issue on the 28th to discuss. And I'm glad I'm still the board member, Ralph, because with the turnover in the board members we've got, there's only a few of us that can address this. We have one municipality that has written the provincial government to suggest that the Conservation Authority be folded into Simcoe County, in other words, dissolved. And the odd thing is, this was as a result of a motion passed by that council to send this letter in, and the representative of that member from that council on the NVCA board is our chair, which I think leads to a potential for a bit of a conflict of interest. And I'll be raising that point on the 28th. I think that does me.
There was a few openings that I did this last weekend. Deputy Mayor Creelman and I went to the Globetrotter grand reopening. They've got a lot of product there, so if you're interested in getting an RV, that's a good place to start. And then I also went to the Red Barn Dog Spa, which is the one on Mono edge of the town line. And they're so excited. Lovely spot. They did a really good job, and here's hoping that they have lots of success. And went to the Lawrence Scott's annual review at Alder Street. Always interesting to see young people as they advance through their goals and dreams. And before all of that, I went to the FCM conference in Quebec City. And next year, the conference is being held in Toronto at Metro Convention Center. And I would strongly suggest, if you're not interested in going to Roma or AMO or OGRA, to consider attending, because it's a different perspective. You're looking at the national perspective with all municipalities, large and small, so that's city, urban, rural, northern. We all have the same problems, and it's definitely worthwhile setting in on all of those sessions. I have to do my written report for county, but I haven't gotten it done yet, so I'm asking for a pass I'll submit it in July, but maybe I'll provide it to this council also. So, and yes, Friday is going to be a great barbecue, and let's see, what else is happening? Oh yeah, Ram Rodeo, Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock, so. No, it's the rodeo. Russ Miller brings all of his, all the Broncos and the steers and everything. It's quite an event. And we have county council on Thursday night, and I think that's all for me. John?
The Community Safety Task Force is moving along nicely, and I neglected to mention that in addition to presentations on the survey and the numbers from the devices that the county has put out on the roadway, we're also going to have a brief presentation about the Police Service Board and its role, as well as the contract with the OPP. Just a late-breaking bulletin out of Orangeville Council. They just received their quote from the OPP, and it seems as if the savings are not huge. It's going to be a very interesting debate as this goes forward. The optimists are saying, well, we'll realize savings in years 4, 5, and 6, but the quotation is for 3 years. So that will be interesting to follow, and it will have ramifications for policing for us if they do go with OPP. It will place more resources in the south end of Mono in proximity to Orangeville. The Internet Task Force has had another meeting. We were likewise attempting to settle on a public meeting date. Having second thoughts about the amount of work that needs to go into potential presentations at that meeting prior to the floor being opened up for public comment. I have proposed to the committee that we put our public meeting expectation off till September. I think it's too ambitious to try and do something between now and September, especially when we have the other task force meeting at the end of August. So that's my update, and we do have county council on Thursday, and it will be interesting to see how some of the provincial issues shake out.
Sharon?
I attended the Shelburne Fire Board, and it's a good place to go because everything's running very well. They're exploring how to build on to that building that's there, so there's going to be an engineer come and have a look at things, and I think that's important. It's pretty squashed in there, and trying to get everything done, and it's pretty difficult. I was also at the canoe lessons. I stood on the shore and made comments, and I'm sure I was helpful. We also had going backwards, We had a tourism meeting, and there are a number of things there that are going to have to be worked out. And where else? I will go to county council because I too want to hear how things shake down through what's happened. With particularly, I suppose, Bill 108. And I'm really looking forward to Friday with Plaid for Dad and checking out Mark. And right after that, I'm headed for Relay for Life. So that ought to keep me busy. And also on the 15th, so this is why I'm going to the rodeo in Grand Valley instead of, it's the Headwaters house tour, raising money for the hospital, obviously. And that is on Saturday. And that's all, folks.
So if there's no other business, we can, do we have any notices of motion? And
No notices of motion? I forgot mine at home. No,
okay, so I guess we'll close off then, that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Mono in session 11-2019, held on the 11th of June 2019, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Moved by Martin and seconded by Mantalo. All in favor? Carries. And we adjourn at 9:37 p.m. Moved by Creelman and seconded by Nix. All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody.